Welcome to the Awareness Magazine show. On this edition, our guest is Maureen St. Germain, who has been a guest previously on the show. Maureen is known as the practical mystic, who supports individuals in their spiritual and their personal growth. She is a teacher who has taught around the globe and is also a book author. She is here to tell us about her new book entitled Opening the Akashic Records, Meet Your Record Keepers, and Discover Your Soul's Purpose. Good evening, Maureen.
Hi, I'm so glad to be back on your show.
I am so honored to have you here again. You're always so lovely to interview and have so much great information for everyone.
Thank you.
You're
Pleasure
welcome.
to be here.
Thank you. So the first question is, what are the Akashic Records?
The Akashic Records are a field of information and knowledge. And when I say field, think of a field full of flowers. But it is an energetic vibrational place, not where we are. And it's something that we can tune to, like we tune to a radio station. And it holds the record of all of our actions in this lifetime and past lifetimes, and also a lot of the ideas that we're thinking about doing. So it does contain probable futures.
And with your new book, we know there are many books on Akashic Records. How is your book unique?
Well, there's a number of factors in this particular book. Number one, I teach people to recognize what I call markers, and that is actual sensations or signs that occur when they're in the records, which help them identify and confirm, we're in. When you're on the internet and you kind of make your connection, you see a little button that says, okay, you're connected. And even though you don't see the words you're connected, you see how that little icon changes, and you recognize, okay, I'm in. And so I teach that. That's one of the elements. Another element is, in the system that I was guided to start, we invoke the presence of ascended masters and beings who are known to be involved with this system of knowledge. So when you look at the ancient texts from ancient scriptures of various kinds, they all refer to these same sages or saints. So we invoke them by name. I call that our insurance policy, because even the best of us could have a bad day, and that kind of helps us. I also recommend that people use crystals that will help improve their connection, because it's a known fact that certain kinds of crystals will improve your ability in any kind of work where you're trying to connect with otherworldly energy.
Okay.
And there's more.
Okay.
There's one other thing that I want to share, and that is the people that I train them to tune to your records and give you what I call a download, or very important information before you ask any questions, before you open your mouth. I've taken your name, and that's it. And I'll give you an example of how remarkable this can be. When I opened a records of a woman who I didn't realize at the time really didn't believe in this, but her best friend had insisted, you want to have a time with me. So when I opened to her records, I could see in my mind's eye that she was struggling to get a life vest on, like the kind you would wear on a boat. Mm-hmm. And through me, the guidance was, you don't have to struggle anymore with the life vest when you get on your boat. And she said, how did you know I had a boat? And I kind of laughed and said, I didn't know you had a boat. It just came through.
It came through the records. Mm-hmm. It was right there, all the information.
And that is very powerful, because that does two things. It helps me as a channel and guide, because everybody wants to know they're doing a good job. I don't want to be a fake. And the client gets the benefit, because that information was not known to me, so it establishes that they are also working with an authentic person.
Right, and then it can help them on their path.
Exactly.
How did you become a channel?
Well, initially I did a lot of spiritual work. I traveled and taught meditation for 15 years. And in that time frame, I was meditating every day for hours, and I was then teaching on the weekends and teaching others how to do this meditation. So I put a lot of personal work into opening the channel. And then at a certain point, I was given a message that I was being given access to an aspect of the reality that had been closed to humanity for eons. And I was also told that I was being given a personal guide.
Okay.
And when I asked, how come that information came through somebody else? How come I didn't get that information? I was told, because you don't believe in aggrandizement. You don't want someone else to say how wonderful they are. And it's true, I don't. So I had to hear it from an outsider. And then I was checking in, yes, that's true.
Okay. And with the Akashic records, how does that go with free will?
It's a good question. The whole idea of free will is still very prevalent and certainly very strong. What happens by opening first of all, the Akashic records, when a person accesses that information, it's not a psychic reading. It's for soul growth and for your own personality to improve and to improve your attitude, really. So you get information about what's going on and the motives of people around you, which actually helps you be more compassionate towards everyone.
Right.
So as far as free will goes, you can get information and still choose free will. For example, a client asked me about a future roommate, and the record keeper said it would be fine except until the luster wore off. And she said, luster? What luster? And the record keeper said, well, he's not going to stay. And she said, well, when will he leave? And they gave the time frame, and she said, of what year? Because she couldn't fathom that this man that was going to move in with her as a roommate, he was a gay man, would move away after only 1 month. But he'd gotten involved with drugs, and it didn't work out, so she was left high and dry. So then she said, well, maybe I shouldn't rent to him. And the record keeper said, no, keep him as your roommate, as established, because his leaving will lead you to the roommate of your dreams. And that's what happened. After he left, she advertised again, and the woman who ended up being her new roommate, the two women became best friends, and the timing was such that the woman that did move in with her wasn't even looking, 2 months earlier. So it worked out perfectly.
Just worked out with synchronicity. And
so sometimes a bad event actually opens you up to a good event.
To a good event, yes. Yep, that's very true. And then how can someone access the records? Are there rules? Are there, I know you spoke about no alcohol, no arguments, so you really have to be in a...
Well, there's two ways to look at it. Number one, the dispensation has been granted from higher realms that anyone can access the records. So anyone can. There's no rules about that. However, as a teacher, I'm asking people no alcohol because I want them to improve their connection. And if they have alcohol, they're going to be less likely to get a pure connection.
Right.
So that's kind of like a Maureen rule and then a rule from them. In addition, people do spontaneously access the records. The idea of having a training is that you learn ideal ways to approach it and improve your connection. It's like some of us we were talking about makeup earlier. Some women might be natural at makeup artistry, but others go to school for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. And you talked about energy, and energy is addictive. And let's go into that because this is...
Well, what happens is the record keepers are very loving. So imagine the most loving person you can. Let's say a grandma who absolutely knows you're perfect, and she doesn't care the stuff you've done, the fact that you didn't make your bed or do your homework. She doesn't care about any of that. She just loves you, and she loves you so much. And when she holds you, you feel cherished and loved. I've relabeled it the hammock effect.
Okay.
But what happens is when you are in the records, that energy moves through you. Even as a guide, even if I'm, in your Akashic records, let's say, I'm feeling that loving, supportive, yummy energy. And so a couple of my students came to me and said, we think this energy is addictive. And they were being serious, but they were also trying to be funny. And I thought, what a great way to put it. So
that is interesting. That is very... Yeah,
and it's very special because it implies that it's fun and enjoyable. And the thing is, when I started exercising, for example, and I started going to a gym, I hated it. I did not want to go, but I knew that I needed to go, and I knew I needed not only to exercise, but to lose some weight. So I decided I would do this. And after a while, I began to enjoy it. So it's a bit like that. The energy invites you to come back.
Yes, and also it will help people with health and love and different situations in their life as well, and be a good training.
It's true.
Yeah.
When I was dating my husband, and I asked in the records, what should I do about this man who lives on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, I was told, build a bridge. Very funny. So.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Totally.
Yeah. And the open book test.
Oh, yes.
Please explain that.
Well, if you're a chemist or you're in some kind of high science, you're allowed to take your book to the test because you need to look up the tables or some kind of formula. So call it an open book test. So what if you could have an open book test for life and take all your life tests with an open book? And so that's the metaphor is that having access to the Akashic Records is like taking an open book test. So that when you're faced with uncomfortable situations, when you're faced with difficulty in your life, you can open the records. And a classic example would be on both sides of the fence. I have a woman who would want to divorce her husband, and she's being advised not to, that she doesn't have to divorce him, that she can work it out. And on other case, when she, a different example, a different client might be told that her decision to divorce this man is in alignment with her highest and best good. And sometimes those decisions are so difficult that you want to make sure you're making the right decision.
Right.
In many cases, the client will say, I already knew that. I just wanted some validation, because people intuitively know these things.
They wanted clarity for their own intuition.
Right.
And
Exactly.
make sure they don't make a mistake.
Right. Well, they want to choose the best thing for them.
Right.
And sometimes the best thing is not obvious.
Right.
We think we know what's best, but we often don't.
That is true. That is very true. And so, well, we are just about out of time. We will definitely have you back, and we can do a part 2 and talk about the book.
Okay.
So I'd like to thank all our viewers and our guest, Maureen St. Germain, and we wish you so much success with your new book, Opening the Akashic Records. Meet your record keepers and discover your soul's purpose. So thank you once again, and
My
good
pleasure.
night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.